We have two goals for lesson number 13. The first is to be able to solve problems with multiple symbols of inclusion, those symbols of inclusion being parentheses, braces, and brackets. And the second goal is to be able to quickly determine the sign, meaning positive or negative, of products of multiple signed real numbers. So when we multiply multiple real numbers together, some positive, some negative, that we can quickly determine is our answer going to be positive or negative. Starting with the first goal, which is to be able to solve problems with multiple symbols of inclusion, there is one key that you need to know in terms of process. And then if you just follow that process until you're done, you will get the right answer. And that is to start with your innermost symbols and work sequentially towards the outside. So in this example here in green, we're going to look for what is the very innermost symbols of inclusion, which in this case is these parentheses here where we have -2 minus 4. And so we're going to solve what's inside those first. So -2 minus 4 is -6. And now I'm going to just solve that, but copy everything else exactly. Now I just have one more remaining symbol of inclusion, which was the outermost one. And now I'm going to solve what is inside of those. So in this case, we have -6 minus 3 is -9. Copy everything else exactly. And this is how we can show our work, by the way. So now we have -3 times -9. We're going to do that multiplication. That gives us positive 27. Negative times a negative equals a positive, remember? So now we have 27 minus 2, and our answer is 25. One more example here in blue. Here is an example in which we have a numerator and a denominator. So we recall from a previous lesson that we're going to simplify the numerator and then simplify the denominator and then combine them for our final answer. So I chose to separate out, we've got the numerator over here, denominator over here. So starting with the numerator, I'm going to find the innermost symbols of inclusion and solve what is inside those first. And so I see here -2 minus 3, which is -5, and then there's nothing to simplify there. So I'm just going to solve what's inside here and copy everything else exactly. Now, moving outwards, now we have within these braces a multiplication problem of -5 times -2, which is positive 10. Copy everything else exactly. Now we have -3 times 10. That gets us -30. So our numerator simplifies to -30. Over here, I've written our denominator. Well, here's our denominator. And then looking at the symbols of inclusion, we just have a parentheses. And so you solve what's inside there. 4 minus 2 is 2. So I copied that over here. -3 times 2 is -6, and that is our denominator. Then we put those together. -30 over -6, that simplifies to 5. Okay, so again, the key is with multiple symbols of inclusion, you find the innermost ones, solve what's inside there, and then just continue to work sequentially outwards until you have worked through the entire expression. Then for our second goal, to be able to quickly determine the sign of products of multiple signed real numbers, it is extremely similar to what we've done in a past lesson in which we had just multiple negative signs, right? So we could have like 2, which of course is positive 2. -2 is, of course, -2. -2 is really equal to positive 2, right? -2 is equal to -2. And so it's just very, very similar to this, in which when we have an even number of negative signs, our answer is positive. And when we have an odd number of negative signs, our answer is negative, okay? So the only difference here is now instead of working with just one number that has any given number of negative signs, now we're taking products of multiple real numbers, some which are positive, some which are negative, and we're just looking at that and going, okay, how many negative signs are there? And if there is an even number, then we know that our product is a positive value. And if there's an odd number, then we know our product is a negative value. So we don't actually have to do the multiplication. We're just simply counting the negative signs and saying, okay, is that an even or an odd number? So for this one example here, we've got -4 times -3 times 2 times, now when there's a plus sign, that just means +5. So you can ignore the plus signs. So these are essentially mean the same thing. So it's either going to just not have a symbol, which is more common for positive numbers, or that plus sign just means it's a positive number. So this is +5 and +6. So when we count the negative signs, we're going to count this one and this one. So we have 2, which is an even number, so we know that our product will be positive. And then here we've got -3, -2, 6, 4, and -1. So 1, 2, 3 negative symbols. 3 is an odd number, and therefore our answer, our eventual product will be negative.